Hello, my name's Edward Hofer, and I'm with Politipeeps, and today we're meeting with Ari Zoldan. Welcome, Ari.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So I've heard that you have this little project that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. What we're trying to do is homeless problem is it's been a problem for a very long time, and it's not going anywhere, unfortunately. Um, Thousands of people pass by the homeless every single day. Very, very few and far between actually stop and give a dollar. But virtually no one actually stops and has a conversation with them and sits down with them and say, hey, what is your name? What are you passionate about? What are some of your favorite things? And I tried it a couple of months ago for the first time, and it's been completely transformative. I feel not only for myself, but also my network and the people that I'm in touch with, and people that people are seeing what we're doing, and it's been an incredible journey, and we just started. And the initiative is really to connect with people that aren't connected. It's to connect with people that thousands of people walk by them every single day, and not a single person actually stops and asks, "How are you? What can I help you with?" And the people that are doing it now, kudos. I feel we need more people to be able to jump on the bandwagon and do that stuff, because they're lonely. They need human connection, and this is something that everyone could do, and it doesn't take a dollar to do it.
That's right. We've talked a lot about homelessness in this country over the last several decades, but when it comes time to doing things, everybody always seems to want somebody else to do it.
Right.
So poverty is a big issue on that. What do you think the intersection is between poverty and homelessness?
I think, I mean, all things considered, and I've probably been to 40 or 50 countries around the world, mostly third world countries, war-torn countries, and I've seen a lot of things that would keep you up at night. These countries, there's no social infrastructure. There's no homeless shelter. There's no real infrastructure that if somebody is poor, that they can go and get a hot meal. That just doesn't exist. With this country, thank God, this country does have a social infrastructure. There is food stamps. There are shelters. There are resources that a homeless person could go to get help. Granted, there needs to be a lot of improvement, but there certainly is a foundation, and I think we are a benevolent society. So there is social infrastructure. So the question is, why aren't these people tapping into the resources? Why aren't they checking in more to the homeless shelter? Yes, there's a long line, there's bureaucracy, there's red tape in getting into some of these shelters, but why isn't the line longer? And a lot of the answers I've been getting has been, well, it's not safe in the shelter. It's not safe for the shelter till, the other side, the food isn't good. And I was like, what? The food isn't, I said, granted, you're not in a five-star restaurant, but let's try to compromise. But that's in one extreme. Where the problem lies, I believe, people that I've spoken to I haven't done any extensive research or focus group, but it's either mental illness or it's drugs. And then what's really deadly is the intersection between the two. When there's mental illness wrapped in drugs, that creates a very dangerous situation, not only for them, but also for the people on the street and people that they're surrounded with. So I think that the homeless situation needs to be approached not from a, well, they don't have money, they have nowhere to go, but let it come from a mental health perspective. Let it come from a drug rehab perspective, like the compassionate law that just came about a couple of years ago, that was instituted, is that the cops used to arrest drug addicts until they realized, wait, this is an addiction, this is a disease. Let's actually force them and put them in rehab centers. 10, 15 years ago, if I told you that, yeah, things are going to move to trying to help these people versus incarcerate them, you'd say, what? We're not going to go after drug addicts and throw them in jail. No, politician was brave enough to say, hey, let's look at this differently. Let's help these people. Throwing them in jail will do zero for them. But going ahead and actually giving them the tools and the resources and putting them into safe areas will be a lot more productive. And it's been very, very effective.
One of the problems that homeless people have when they're trying to get on their feet again is finding a job. And when you get a job, oftentimes it doesn't even cover your bills. So I want to say it was back in the 60s or maybe even the 50s that we instituted a minimum wage to help with poverty and to help people who are desperate to get to a spot where they can have some safety and some security and create a life for themselves. How well do you think the minimum wage has helped people do that? Has it helped the homeless? Has it hurt them? Has it had any impact at all?
Right. It's a good question. I don't think it's impacted. I don't think it's impacted them one way or the other. I think the bigger problems are even before they get to a job interview. If they're able to get a job interview, who are the employers out there that would even be open to hiring someone that maybe just got off the streets or someone that's still living on the streets? We need to do a lot of convincing to the workforce that, hey, wait, these are people. A lot of them are very, very capable. Granted, there's issues, but there's issues with everyone. How can you, as a corporation, how can you adopt them into your company? Even if they don't have great skill sets, you could always find. I know I've ran companies, big, small, medium size, and there's always an opportunity somewhere in the organization to be able to place these people. So I think pulling in the employers, I think is key. The minimum wage, I think, is almost secondary. It's how do we get these employees on board on a platform where they're willing to at least give someone a chance, just like they give somebody right out of college a chance.
When I was a child, I was actually homeless for a few months when I was 8 years old. And for me and my family, it was about money. It was purely about having the money necessary to get adequate housing. And myself and a lot of other people have always thought that poverty did have a lot to do with homelessness. It sounds like you don't necessarily agree with that. What would you tell somebody who says that poverty is the main cause of homelessness?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the research or the statistics, but you're giving me something to think about. I think the issue is about the mental health and the drugs. I think that's the driving force that gets people on the street and then gets people starving and not having the means to be able to get back up on their feet. Kind of, how many people truly get a second chance? Very, very far and few between, and that's just in the ordinary way of life. But so let alone somebody on the street, what are the chances that they're able to get back on their feet, get housing, and then climb that ladder? How do we get that ladder to them that's maybe shorter? That ladder maybe is more effective, maybe it's more nicer, and give them that opportunity to be able to prove themselves. At the end of the day, if that door is open, they're going to need to prove themselves. And they're going to need to have to adapt or get into mainstream society where it works for them and it also works for the employee, where it's a win-win and not necessarily a charity case.
So it sounds like, from what you're saying, it sounds like a lot of the homelessness that you have observed has started with somebody who had some kind of a blowout in their life, and then things spiraled down.
Correct.
And now if you just give the person a job or get them some medication for a mental health problem, it's entirely inadequate to get them back on their feet. Is that what you're saying?
I think that you are correct. There's typically one instance followed by instance after instance after instance, because it becomes somewhat a spiraling down. You can't pay the mortgage on your house. You don't have family. The bank forecloses on your house. You have kids. You have back bills. Where do you go? You have the shelter, but as we mentioned, the red tape there is very, very. There's a lot of red tape and there's a lot of bureaucracy. So I always feel most people in America, unfortunately, we're probably one or two paychecks from being on the street. where a right savings today just doesn't exist. Who has savings? The standard of living is too high, especially when you start having a family. So very few people are saving. And I don't think people realize that if there is another big crash happening, we're going to be talking a lot about homelessness and a lot more. So
I've heard that it's really important to have positive connections in your life in order for you to be happy and feel motivated. And it sounds like this program that you have started, or at least this initiative that you're doing, where you go out and you talk to these people and make connections, it sounds like you're trying to create a relationship with these people and learn how to respect them and communicate better with them.
correct. And I find that it's infectious. You'll be surprised. Not only does it make me feel good, but it also makes the homeless person feel good. But I can't tell you how many people walk by, smile, and actually start engaging in the conversation. Even if they don't, they just listen. And like before you know it, you kind of like, I'm looking around and you have a lot of these faces that are actually smiling. And I imagine they're saying in back of their mind, maybe, wow, I wish I had some courage to go up to that person. I wish I can help them. So there's definitely, I don't want to say a silver lining, but there's, you're kind of left with a sense of happiness and a sense of gratitude when you walk away. So it is a win-win. It's not conditional, right? You're going there to try to help them, try to bring a level of consciousness, a conversation to them, but yet you also walk away with, hey, that makes me feel really good. And that's a win-win. And why not be in that situation? And I know it's been transforming my life as well, the way I see things. I just appreciate that I have a roof over my head. I'm able to cover my bills. But like I said, most people are a couple of paychecks away from being on the street. So that's been very, very humbling, and it makes me sad. But also, I also feel like I'm moving the needle, one bit. And if that can spark an infectious reaction, I feel like I've done my job.
Well, if you can add more awareness to the situation and maybe give some people a little bit of hope, then maybe other people will get on board and replicate it.
It takes one person, but it also takes a village. And I'm stealing someone's quote there, but it does. And I think that it should be community based as well. When I was talking to some of these homeless people, the people that were surrounding me, and I was asking them, where do you live? They're like, oh, I know this person, he's on my street. I see him every single day. So I think that if the community could somehow connect or adopt them or bring them in, I think it would be it'd be incredible. And if we all do our part, whatever that part is, if we all band together, we could move the needle and we could eradicate, you look at these billionaires that have changed the world. Bill Gates, none of his family or for 1,000 generations is going to have to work ever again. But he decided to take on one cause, and that was eradicating malaria in Africa. That's what he felt connected to. And there's one individual that started with a software program in his garage, going door to door trying to sell this software. Who would have thought it would be one of the biggest companies in the world? And talking about affecting change, he's now taking his money, taking his expertise, and going out there and like wiping disease off the face of the earth. So that really gives, I think, me hope. It gives a lot of people hope that one person can affect change. It takes making the first step to be able to do that.
That's pretty interesting. So I think that people basically do want to help, but they don't know how. Do you think that just raising awareness of the situation will get people to voluntarily come together and help out more?
I do. I think it starts with a question. It starts with an interest from that person, and then asking, hey, what can I do? Most people just can't add, or most people think that they can't add any value. But just that conversation, maybe that's all that homeless person needed for that day. He was feeling down, he was feeling discouraged, he was feeling hopeless. But, a person walked by and said hello, bought them a cup of coffee. So I think it's that human connection that we must have. People generally are lonely, just by nature. And those are people that could have millions of dollars in their bank. So imagine if those people are lonely and some of them are in despair mentally or emotionally, how do you think somebody on the street without any kind of physical infrastructure have? I mean, all the more so, and it's hard. It's, how do you not, you're on the street, you have nowhere to go, you have no family. Hope is really what they're holding on to. And if we can kind of help support that, that I think is huge.
Well, social media and the internet have been making it a lot easier to organize and connect in a lot of ways. And homelessness is such a complicated problem that hopefully we'll figure out a way to use all of these tools to create a safer place and a more connected place where people won't slip through the cracks like this in the future.
Right.
If somebody wants to know more about what you're doing, how can they find you?
Sure. I give everyone my, this sounds a little quirky, but I give everyone my cell phone number, if they want to, I'm trying to disconnect a little bit, so you could email me, of course, ari@arizoldan.com, but I'd love to speak to people. I'm 917-680-8765. And I'd love to speak to people, to have a conversation if they know of a homeless person as well, and I can help, whether it's trying to find them a job or provide resources and information. It would be my absolute pleasure.
Well, that is certainly very refreshing. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
My name is Edward Hofer with PolitiPeeps. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell if you want to get notifications.